In June 1876, over 2,000 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors faced 600 U.S. soldiers on the Greasy Grass River, outnumbering them nearly 4-1. A Miniconjou youth, bow slung over his shoulder and red bird feather in his hair, races on his gray horse to meet the onslaught. Within half an hour, 260 soldiers lie dead, their leader lost in the dust. Historian Evan S. Connell calls this a triumph of native will against imperial ambition. Why did these warriors, with 80-inch just one band alone, shatter an army's pride, and what fueled their unyielding fight for their people? On the 25th of June, 1876, the Miniconjou camp, nestled as the third from the south along the Greasy Grass River, begins the day in deceptive calm. Women venture out to dig wild turnips, their baskets filling with the earth's bounty, while hunters track game in the Montana hills. A young Miniconjou warrior, only 16, remains in a teepee with his elderly grandmother and an uncle, sharing roasted meat cooked in the ashes. The camp, part of a sprawling coalition of over 1,000 lodges, houses an estimated 7,000 Lakota and Cheyenne, including 2,000 warriors, according to historian John S. Gray. This serene morning belies the storm about to descend, as the native coalition, unaware of the approaching 7th Cavalry, continues its daily rhythm. The scene reflects a vibrant community, rooted in tradition, yet poised on the edge of a historic clash that would echo through history. An uncle's voice cuts through the morning's peace, urging the young Miniconjou to check the horses grazing along Muskrat Creek. His words carry a heavy premonition, a warning rooted in years of vigilance against encroaching threats. Moments later, a village crier's shout confirms the danger. U.S. soldiers, numbering approximately 600 under Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, are advancing. The cry sends a jolt through the camp, with women pausing their tasks and men reaching for weapons. The Miniconjou youth, still in his shirt from a river swim, feels the weight of urgency as the village of over 1,000 teepees stirs into action. Historian D. Brown notes that such warnings were common in native camps by 1876, as U.S. military campaigns intensified to force tribes onto reservations. This moment captures the native people's resilience, their lives repeatedly disrupted yet fiercely defended. From the vantage point of Black Butte, the Miniconjou warrior, barefoot and cautious among cactus patches, gazes south. He sees Custer's 7th Cavalry, roughly 260 men in this detachment, descending a slope toward the Greasy Grass River. Their blue uniforms gleam under the midday sun, moving in disciplined formation, crossing the river at a trot. Dust rises in clouds, signaling their approach to the Hunkpapa camp, the northernmost of 5 tribal circles. The warrior notes another group of soldiers, likely Major Marcus Reno's 140 men, appearing on hills to the east, as reported in Crow Scout accounts. This sighting, documented by historian Gregory F. Mickno, marks the first visual confirmation of the split U.S. forces, a tactical blunder that underestimated the native coalition's strength. The warrior's observation underscores the native advantage in terrain knowledge, a critical factor in the battle's outcome. The Hunkpapa camp erupts in chaos as Reno's 140 soldiers charge, firing into teepees. Women and children, numbering over 4,000 across the camps, flee westward, clutching belongings or leaving them behind. Teepees stand abandoned, their buffalo hide walls flapping in the wind. The Miniconjou youth, now back in the village, hears cries of alarm and sees warriors sprinting to catch horses. Historian Robert M. Utley estimates that the sudden attack caught the Hunkpapa off guard, yet their rapid response reflects years of honed defensive instincts. This moment reveals the human cost of the conflict, as non-combatants bore the brunt of fear and displacement, their lives upended in minutes by a military force bent on subjugation. Warriors converge on Muskrat Creek, where the Miniconjou youth, now 16, joins the fray. Armed with a 6-shooter, a bow slung over his shoulder, and a red bird feather tied in his hair as a protective vow, he mounts his gray horse. Alongside him, an estimated 80 warriors from his band alone, part of the larger 2,000-strong native force, prepare to face Custer's second wave of roughly 260 soldiers. The youth's uncle leads the charge downstream, beyond the Santee camp, to intercept the advancing cavalry. Historian Stephen E. Ambrose highlights the warriors' swift mobilization, noting that their decentralized leadership allowed for rapid, coordinated action. This scene captures the courage of young warriors, thrust into battle to protect their families, embodying a collective resolve rooted in survival. The native coalition, vast as leaves on trees in the words of Crow King, overwhelms Custer's men, Over 2,000 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors encircle the soldiers, creating a maelstrom of dust and smoke. Hooves thunder, drowning out gunfire, as the native force, outnumbering Custer's detachment nearly 10-1, presses forward. The Miniconjou youth, riding in the rear with less experienced fighters, witnesses the chaos as warriors swarm the hill where soldiers stand. Historian Nathaniel Philbrick describes this as a tidal wave of mounted warriors, whose sheer numbers rendered U.S. firepower ineffective. The scene, likened to a bad dream by the youth, underscores the overwhelming native strength and the disarray of a cavalry unprepared for such resistance. In the battle's fevered chaos, a tragic error unfolds. A Shiloh warrior, struck down in the fray, is scalped by allies who mistake him for an enemy. His body, discovered later, lies face down, the scalp wound a grim testament to the battle's confusion. Dust and smoke, thick enough to obscure friend from foe, create a fog of war that historian Gregory F. Michno estimates contributed to multiple such incidents. The Miniconjou youth, witnessing the aftermath, notes the shouting voices and frenzied movement, with women joining the scene, their tremolo cries signaling victory. This moment reveals the raw intensity of the conflict, where desperation and proximity led to heart-rending mistakes, yet also highlights the communal unity as women joined warriors in the aftermath. Custer's soldiers, dismounted and clinging to their horses' bridles, face annihilation on a hilltop. The Miniconjou youth sees their mounts break free, scattering in panic as over 1,500 warriors close in. The sheer force of hooves, as one warrior recalls, could have sufficed without firearms. Historian John S. Gray calculates that Custer's 260 men faced insurmountable odds, with their linear tactics crumbling against the native encirclement. The youth, wielding an emptied six-shooter, clubs a soldier with its butt, watching him fall beneath trampling hooves. This vivid account, preserved by David Humphreys Miller, illustrates the physical and psychological dominance of the native warriors, whose numbers and ferocity overwhelmed a disciplined but outnumbered foe. Crazy Horse, a Lakota leader adorned with an eagle horn, rides boldly between the lines of soldiers and warriors. His horse gallops through gunfire, untouched, as he draws the soldiers' fire, depleting their ammunition. This daring act, recounted by Fred Feather, triggers a decisive charge by over 1,000 warriors, who overrun the hilltop. Historian Robert M. Utley praises Crazy Horse's tactical brilliance, noting his ability to exploit the soldiers' limited resources. The Miniconjou youth, watching from the rear, hears the war cry, "Hoka hey!" as warriors surge forward, enveloping the soldiers in a cloud of dust and cries. This moment, a turning point, showcases native leadership and strategic acumen, often underrepresented in traditional accounts. Cheyenne warrior White Cow Bull, positioned at a river ford, aims his repeater at a soldier in a buckskin jacket, possibly Custer himself. Riding a sorrel horse with 4 white stockings, the soldier leads a charge of 40 men across the greasy grass. White Cow Bull's shot fells him into the water, halting the advance. Historian Evan S. Connell notes that this claim, though debated, aligns with native accounts of a pivotal moment early in the battle. The Cheyenne warrior, later stopped by tribal women from taking the soldier's finger as a medicine token, learns the body may be a relative, highlighting cultural reverence for the dead. This incident underscores the personal stakes and complex identities within the native coalition. Crow Scout White Man runs him, clad in a breechclout and carrying a rifle, guides Custer's 600-man 7th Cavalry through Montana's rugged terrain. Tasked with protecting Crow lands from Sioux and Cheyenne rivals, he endures freezing winters and scorching summers, marching alongside soldiers as their eyes. His role, alongside 5 other Crow Scouts, involves night treks and concealed camps. As documented by historian Thomas B. Marquis, White Man runs him's loyalty stems from a desire to preserve his people's territory, a choice fraught with tension given the U.S. Army's broader campaign against native nations. His account reveals the delicate balance of alliance and survival, a perspective often overshadowed by the battle's central narrative. From the Wolf Mountains, White Man runs him and fellow Crow Scouts spot the Sioux camp, stretching over 2 miles with 1,000 lodges. The site, reported to Custer at dawn on the 25th of June, 1876, sparks his decision to divide his 600 men, sending 140 with Reno to attack from the south. The Scouts report, corroborated by historian Gregory F. Michno, reveals the camp's immense size, housing 7,000 people, including 2,000 warriors. Custer, eager for glory, underestimates this force, a miscalculation that seals his fate. The Crow Scouts' vantage point, high above the Greasy Grass, highlights their critical role and the Native Coalition's overwhelming presence, setting the stage for the battle's outcome. Ordered by Custer to join the pack train, White Man Runs Him escapes the slaughter that claims 260 of Custer's men. Riding through a rain-soaked night, he reaches the Crow camp at Pryor Creek, 2 days away. His account, recorded by David Humphreys Miller, describes a harrowing retreat, his horse stumbling from exhaustion. He later learns of Custer's annihilation, a loss he mourns, having seen the general as a friend who promised land rights. Historian D. Brown notes the Crow Scouts' survival as a testament to their strategic withdrawal, yet their grief reflects the personal bonds forged in a campaign that ultimately betrayed Native interests. On the 26th of June, 1876, surviving soldiers, roughly 350 under Reno and Benteen, entrench on a hilltop, facing relentless fire from 1,500 Native warriors. Black Elk, a 13-year-old Oglala, joins older warriors, shooting arrows at soldiers attempting to fetch water from the river. Only a few of the 20 soldiers who try succeed. Most fall. As documented by historian Nathaniel Philbrick, Black Elk's account of targeting a soldier hiding in blueberry bushes, later killed in a grass fire, reveals the involvement of even young boys in the battle's brutal aftermath. This relentless siege underscores the Native Coalition's determination to protect their land, even as they faced mounting U.S. pressure. As scouts report approaching reinforcements, likely General Terry's 400-man column, the Native Coalition of over 7,000 people withdraws to the Bighorn Mountains. They travel overnight, reaching Woodlouse Creek by the 27th of July, 1876, where they celebrate with a feast of buffalo meat spotted with fat. Black Elk recalls the joy of this gathering, with 2,000 warriors and their families reveling in their triumph. Historian John S. Gray describes this retreat as a strategic choice, preserving the coalition's strength for future resistance. The feast, a moment of cultural affirmation, reflects the resilience of a people who, despite victory, faced an uncertain future under U.S. expansion. The retreat to Woodlouse Creek, marked by a feast of buffalo meat, was more than a celebration for the Lakota and Cheyenne. It was a defiant assertion of their identity, with over 7,000 people united in the face of an encroaching empire. Their victory on the 25th of June, 1876, where 2,000 warriors overwhelmed 600 soldiers, stands as a testament to their courage and tactical prowess, as historian Robert M. Utley notes, a rare moment where Native strength prevailed. The voices of warriors like White Cow Bull and Black Elk, alongside Crow Scouts like White Man Runs Him, reveal a complex tapestry of resistance, sacrifice, and survival. Yet, this triumph came at a cost. The battle's aftermath saw intensified U.S. campaigns, with over 5,000 troops deployed to subdue the Plains tribes by 1877, according to historian D. Brown. The Native Coalition's withdrawal preserved their strength, but their way of life faced relentless erosion. Their stories, preserved by David Humphreys Miller's interviews with 72 veterans, echo with pride and pain, reflecting a people who fought not just for land but for their very existence. As we honor the resilience of the Lakota, Cheyenne, and their allies, a question remains. How could a coalition of 7,000, victorious against a formidable army, face a future where their cultural survival hung by a thread, and what does this reveal about the enduring struggle for Native sovereignty?